cool. Just talking to the table.
Like, it's not like a Nike swooper. It's on stuff.
Everything. Yeah,
everything. This Table Talk logo is cool looking though, you know.
Jacob, what's the status?
We are good to go. Sorry about that, guys.
Okay, so we are live, and everybody can see that we're live. So let us know. Can you see if they can see?
Yeah, I can see us, guys in the chat. If you can hear us, let us know. Give us a thumbs up. Give us something so we know what's going on. I'll just take 2 seconds and see what they say.
Hello, hello.
We can see. Yep. Okay.
All right, so we're good.
Yeah, we can hear. We can see. Fantastic.
Okay, bring us in.
This is like a family reunion.
This is great. I liked it. We should do this every 6 months. Oh, wait. I think we do.
I see you every like 2 months.
I know. This is great.
So as everybody can see, Juji and Joey are back here at the table with myself and Dave. Welcome, first and foremost. It's good to have you guys back again.
Yeah, thank you for having us. It's always we never take it for granted.
You guys are looking in better shape than the last time we did this.
Well, last time we did this, it was after a 4.5-hour leg workout. Today was after, well, I don't know.
It was equally as, I don't know. Everything we do here is pretty terrible, but we enjoy it in a weird way.
The build up to this one was a little different. We were like, it won't be so bad.
It was still pretty bad.
I'm like calculating the total work of the last one compared to this one.
Really?
Did you? In my head. I'm trying to. Because the leg presses, right, they were heavy. There were a lot of reps, but there's also a lot of weight. I bet you did more work today.
Yeah, total tonnage today for sure.
Sets times reps times weight is workload, right?
And that number was what, 40? 40 what? Did you do it?
Well,
it was about, we guessed around 40,000 pounds.
It's more than that.
It's definitely more than that because there were a few sets of 8.
I was going to say, I don't know if I've ever come close to that.
I don't.
In a macro cycle.
In a macro cycle, in maybe a lifetime. Yeah.
You guys are going to think less of me for this, but I usually don't use tonnage for very many.
Oh, you used it today though.
Well, I'm just glad that it was a good number. I was like, okay, cool.
I just wanted to make sure that we actually hit 40 sets, and it was tough because we couldn't look because he started writing the set total on the other end of the monolift. So I just remember I was like trying to do the math, but then almost felt like I was going to pass out the whole time. So I just prayed that we hit 40 and made everybody happy.
As someone who got to just watch this whole thing happen, the nuance and how you guys handled that whole situation was very, very interesting to watch.
I'm getting about 42,000, so I'd have to figure out what it is on the other kind of stuff. But the leg press gets weird because if it's 1,000 pounds that you guys were doing for whatever it was for 20 reps, it's 20,000. So
right.
I mean, it's either way. It's hard either way. It's hard. I think mentally what you did today though is probably harder. Because it's the same thing, right?
Yeah, the monotony of it must just kind of...
I don't... Yeah, it's... Well, like Dave, what you said, you don't know when it's going to end. Mm-hmm. You don't know when how long is this going to go? Mm-hmm. I don't even know how many sets we were at. I was like... No. There was no motivation, like... But then again, there wasn't anything like, oh, okay, that number is enough. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. There was none of that either. I would say this is... I usually never have a problem with having to throw up in a workout, but... That was
it's because the rest time there was no rest.
Is that what causes you to throw up usually?
Yeah, I mean, right when I was done, you'd hop right back on, then I was right back. It got to the point where it was within 30 seconds until I just started talking and jabbering on to give myself some extra rest time. But for the most part, I think that my heart rate was pumping like crazy. Mm-hmm. I was getting close to puke level as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for those that are following along that don't know what we're talking about, they did back-to-back squat dynamic work. So which it sounds pretty easy, right? You're just going to do a dynamic squat workout, 8 sets of 2.
Yeah.
Minute rest or less. Just kind of see what goes from there. So that's what they did. And listen to how they're crying about how hard it was and all this stuff. And, but it ended up being 40 sets. And the rest periods got trimmed way down to probably 20 seconds, So, I mean, the rest was him doing his set. So it's not really a rest.
Oh, you got it. When was that? About a halfway point, you slapped it on to nearly 400 pounds.
After 30.
Yeah.
because you guys were going to keep going. I'm trying to figure out, like, how do we get this?
Or he'd look at you and just say, do 6.
Yeah, so this is going to go to 50, you know? And so, yeah, that I was just trying to, somebody start upping the number here.
Well, Dave was the mastermind behind the whole thing, because he was like, he would watch you do something fast, right? And then he was like, Juji, do 4. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he was just like, no, do 5. Do 5.
You're as much in my head as he was.
I know. I'm trying to give you both a competitive advantage here. It's like, okay, he looks like if you did 2 reps right now, it's going to like burst his bubble a little bit. Mm-hmm. He ain't going to let you know it, but he's going to think in his mind, oh man, this sucks. And sometimes that's all you need.
Well, Juji got me good because then at one point he cut me off and just hopped right in front of me.
That was brilliant. And I was going to tell you that in the video. That was brilliant. I was thinking about that the whole time. Like, you could just cut him off, and now you're in the pole position.
That's what he did. I messed with my head for sure. And like, here I am. I'm like setting the tone, and then I'm just talking smack, and he just steps right in. I was like, uh-oh. And then he would do weird things where it would be like a slow set. And then he would do a next set and it would be faster. So I was like, what? All right, he's really messing with me right now.
A couple times I was going to try to get you to do 10.
Oh.
Because I knew
because he kept telling you, he's like, don't rack it.
Because I knew watching his eyes, if you did 5, he was like, this sucks, but I can do 5.
Yeah.
The 6, I saw a little bit different look. Like, oh, where if it was 10, I think it would have been like, nah, man.
Well, that's what finished me. I think you did 5 right at the end. That was what you finished with. You finished with 5 reps. We were supposed to do 2 reps, but 6. Every now and then, but you did 6. I was like, I'm done.
Yeah.
And when the video comes out, watch the eyes of both Juji and Joey. That's like a slow creeping death that just kind of crawls in towards the end of the video.
It's like watching a time lapse of like a flower melt or something, or wilt or die or something, probably.
Yeah, there's a roller coaster of emotions. We come out strong and we're talking smack back and forth, and then it just goes into suffering and silence.
Joey tells me to shut up. He's gonna kill me.
Yeah. It's like you're like trying to be a good training partner and push, but then at the same time you're like, you want this guy to break and stop. So you're trying to find that fine line of how do I compliment this guy, and
well, you don't. That stops immediately from the start.
And because percentage wise, in terms of weight on the bar, like if you looked at that percentage, you'd be like, oh, that's manageable. Mm-hmm. Like if you looked at the total amount of reps, if initially you're like, oh, 8, 10, 12 sets, you're like, yeah, it's not so bad.
Yeah.
But then it's just that creeping death, man. It just comes out of nowhere.
It catches up to you.
There's other ways to, because the story behind that is what you told in the videos when Chuck and I did it, and I saw it as an opportunity to. I was not stronger than him, so I'm never going to allude to the fact that I was ever stronger than him. But I could have been that day, just with the circumstances, because he was in not good shape.
Oh, the whole broken neck thing.
I was in good shape, so it was an opportunity. So to me, that mental back and forth is, I did not want him to do well.
Yeah.
I wanted to beat him. That was just from the very beginning. So everything was just for that, So when it was over, I was crushed for a month. It's like this. I had my chance and I blew it. I will never have this chance again. Mm-hmm. Not only that, he ain't going to forget it. So I'm never going to have this chance again. But after all that, with the, as Louis would call it, lactic acid tolerance training, which is just a way to say, a lot of reps of stuff that burns really bad. That's, or gut check work, however you want to say it. When we would put it back in there, what I learned was for normal training, I would do it the way that you guys did, just with the SS yoke bar. That way I don't have to worry about the upper back. Probably stop the sets at 15 or 20.
Yeah.
But Louis and I did this a lot because I did it. I don't even know. I liked doing it, which is the one thing where he liked to do it because it was a deload. So it'd be, okay, we're going to do this lactic outlet. And it would be 315 and same thing right there, just back to back, back to back. I didn't figure out until doing this a few times, because he always beat me and it always pissed me off. We were about the same strength-wise, but it always pissed me. Like, why can I not figure out how to beat this old dude? And it bothered me. Then I noticed something, which I didn't share with either of you guys.
Oh, son of a bitch.
There's a lot there.
No way.
Yes, there's more to it. So it's, if you say there's 315 pounds on there, it's dynamic work. So you're standing up like it's 405, 495, 500. You're standing up with more force than the weight that's on the bar, which you should.
Yeah.
He wasn't. He was only standing up like it was 315, you know? And so I started to actually, Chuck or somebody else told me, like, Dave, look, you're pushing too fast. And I'm like, well, this is dynamic work. And he says, yes, but are you in this to beat? You know, are you in this for more? What are you in this for? And I mean, well, wait a minute. What are you telling me right now? And they're like, watch. And then so I would watch. I'm like, he ain't popping out of the bottom of them fuckers like I'm popping out of the bottom. So there's a difference between sitting down, standing up, and sitting down and jumping up. So, so then I just started sitting down, especially on the earlier sets, like the first, knowing that, okay, this is, he said it's going to be 15, but I'm going to act like this is going to be 30.
Right.
So the first 10, I'm just going to just waffle through them. Just sit down, stand up, sit down, stand up. No big deal. No arousal. No pump. You know, breathing's cool. Just make sure breathing really good between. Yeah. And then wait and see and not start really flexing hard. So he flexes hard.
Okay.
You get what I'm saying? So then what that allowed me was I had that other gear I was putting out first, right? Okay. He didn't have that gear that I had. So now all of a sudden it changed the game. So when then he started to wear down, I could start flexing super hard and then do more sets, right? Oh, so God. He would say, I learned how to cheat, which I did. Like I learned how to cheat, but I learned it from him, right? And then I used it against him. And then it's for those days. So there is a way if you get caught up in a contest like that. Yeah. Just don't let the other person know, right? Say we're doing dynamic work. Let them flex as hard as they can. Even try to get them to flex harder. Yeah. Like flex up, you know, and all that. But yourself.
Oh, kind of like what you were doing to them.
I was going to say, that's all cool and all. But when Dave Tate is screaming at you, up, what are you going to do?
Yeah. You're going to go up.
Yeah, with everything you got.
Yeah. So. Well, I'm just saying for future battles, right? If you get into future battles.
I was saying, you made that really difficult on us.
There's nothing worse than that. You watch the other person get to 12, 13, 14, and they're struggling. Their lower back's, you know, tight, and then you just, okay, now I'm going to start. And then you just, bam, and then the other person, they just break. They just want to quit training forever. And that's what I wanted, like, to make them feel like they want to quit forever, you know?
And you can see when that nail in the coffin moment kind of rolls up, right? You could see, like, I could see it in your eyes when you were hitting those last few reps. You're like, this is going to do it. This is going to do it. And you saw Juji get on there, and all of a sudden it was the end of the game, right?
So what I'm saying is there's a strategy aspect to this. But the other part that I'm saying is there really never should be because it's training.
You're acting like we're going to do this again.
Yeah, that was just the first set. That was the first set.
I'm just letting you know that's probably the only time.
Yeah. Sometimes people will ask me, like, what was it like when you're at Westside training at Westside at the time? That's what it was like compared to what could have been more beneficial would be, let's just do the 15. Let's do what we're supposed to do, then work on to the other stuff and not let this other bullshit become part of it, right? To where that's kind of the difference with it.
And that's one of the things about that time that you were mentioning to me is everybody else at the gym was at a meet. So, like, you were the only guys that were there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, the mono lift was taken, so you had to step out of the power rack instead.
Yeah, so Louis just sat on a box. And all he did was, the only thing that he said when it was all over, this is the dumbest shit I've ever seen you guys do. You know, just to going and going. I mean, after a certain point, what exactly is the 25th set going to do that the first 12 didn't do?
Just pride. Pride.
Okay, wait. So, when this thing was done, did you even talk to each other? What happened?
No, because I had to be careful, man, because not that he's going to punch me or anything like that, but I just wanted to win. And if I said anything to him to fire him up, it was going to give him more juice.
Yeah.
I'm trying to act like it's harder than it is, you know, to see if he'll not. So I'm just playing whatever game I can with me. Yeah. Until towards the end, then it became just me with me. Like, am I gonna? How can I figure out how to do one more set? Yeah, you know, my head changed from I need to win to like how do I just do again?
How do I do another set?
Yeah, and if he does 3 or if he pauses one of these, what am I gonna do? Yeah, you know, because I can't back it up. So it changed real quick.
And like you had said, right? Like that wasn't something that happened all the time.
No,
right?
this only happened one time.
Yeah.
But it was,
That was my question: is how often did this stuff happen there?
no, we
I'm
always.
sure it happened with other exercises, though.
I would say, well, just SWOT wise, I would say in every 4-week phase that we did, at some point in time, either something like this, not as extreme, but elbowing people out of the way, or jumping in front of them. Like if they're wrapping their wrist trying to stall, you just jump in front. Like, no, screw you, I'm going. You're a lazy piece of shit. You shouldn't be training with me in the first place. I'm jumping in front of you, and this is what's going to happen, right? So that's just kind of, that was a normal thing.
Yeah.
The other thing might be to work up a little bit. So you get the work done, then you throw a quarter on. Not maxing out, but just in a way you're trying to take the explosiveness that you're trying to develop, the dynamic work you're trying to develop, and then get it to display in heavier weight. So if all you ever did was the speed work, but then you're not trying to apply that characteristic to a heavier weight, the transfer may not be as good. But we could never schedule it because you do it when it feels good.
Yeah.
So
I see.
See what I'm saying? So if you've ever done dynamic work over a period of 3 months, some of the days you feel pop, you feel really good. You feel the pop on it. Other days it's just kind of a grind. It's just your normal speed stuff.
Yeah.
So on the ones that it felt good, like this is popping, then maybe it's 6 sets, we start moving the weight up a little bit, where if it's not popping, we just keep the weight the same for the 8 and you just call it and then you move. So it was auto-regulated based upon how you felt.
Okay.
Never the other way. Never in a way that, man, I feel like crap, so let's work it up just to be able to push, never that.
Okay.
So it was one of those, sometimes the extra sets, but not that much, because there's no point.
So when you felt like, oh man, this is moving, holy crap, I want to test this a little bit. How much would you add? What's your cap there?
Maybe 3 or 4 different sets. So I mean, obviously there's going to be a weight it's going to get too slow.
Yeah.
So you don't want it to become max effort work. So you still want it to become speed work. So if we're at 60%, how many jumps can you really make? You got 60, then you got 65, 70, 75. You're going to start to get at 80. It's going to go down to a single. Now you're getting into the max effort range. Maybe 3 or 4, if that. Sometimes it was just throw a fucking plate on, see what happens.
Okay.
Hit that and go from there. And really it was kind of just enough to be able to know where you are. Like, is this, as you're peaking for this meet, sometimes it's kind of hard to tell where you're at because you're going off max effort movements and sub-maximal weight for speed. This kind of would give a little check. Like, okay, this now, while Louie and everybody would be telling me your squat's probably about 850 range right now. I don't know that. I'm not feeling it. I'm just seeing this dynamic shit and this other stuff where if this was doing the speed work, still just brief, so then working up, and then I end up doing 740 for a fast, nice popping double. Hey, I'm where I need to be.
Right.
So it was enough to justify or to help me to know where I needed to be. So there was that as well. For some of the other people, it was more along the lines of getting that compensatory acceleration coming up fast with speed, getting them to realize that has to transfer over to heavier weight. Otherwise, what's the point of doing it?
Yeah. So you have to add some weight in order to kind of connect.
Yes.
They need to feel something to push against.
Because obviously the bar is going to move slower with a heavier weight.
Yeah.
But the intent needs to still be the same.
And you're moving fast against something that's heavy. It's going to look slow.
Yes. So that intent for a lot of people, as you started to add weight, though, it would change. It would go from that, let's try to move this as fast as we can, to let's just move the weight.
Okay.
So by plugging it together at the end of the dynamic work and working up, that kind of helped to build that a little bit better.
Yeah.
Where on max effort day, they're not thinking compensatory acceleration speed. They should, but they're not. They're just thinking grind, grind, grind. So it was that. So so yes, the things did happen often, but not to this dumbass extreme. Was just 2 guys that had nothing better to do. One was down on his luck, and I was going to try to take advantage of it because I could, and then never happen.
Now, I gotta say, my neck, man, I feel it after that.
That's the bar.
Well, he did this 3 weeks after breaking his neck. I wonder how his neck felt.
We use a
Probably
bar.
broken.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't. Do you think that mattered?
Yeah, you're having a yoke bar. It's higher. You're going to work your neck and your upper back more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, you and Chuck were both wildly explosive lifters, right? If you were working, if you were working with a more of a grinder, someone who's, I guess, stronger but just not as fast, would they benefit from something like this as well? Or do you think that they would have to, obviously the percentages would have to be different, because someone who is slower, they would probably have to be at a lower percentage to get that same level of snap, right?
Yes, they could benefit from it, but at that volume, that number of sets, no. Because
they would just crap out.
They're not going to have, if they already don't have the explosive component to flex hard. Everybody has the explosive component. It's just different with each person is where they rank. So if it's already less on them or lower on them, that means it's going to fatigue way faster. So they might be lucky to get 3 or 4 sets.
Right.
They might be better off box jumping or doing plyos or doing something to be able to establish that first, then go from there, So everybody can benefit from speed work, because let's take the speed component out. Because the other thing that's happening on that day outside of what you guys did is technical work and repetition work. So there's in 40 sets that you did, we changed your squat technique a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And so we reinforced some of that in that session there. So forget about the exhaustion and all the other stuff associated with that. What you just did in that training session was reinforce definitely over 80, because some of the sets were 5, maybe 100 technical reps with a technique that we just showed you how to squat with. So when fatigue sets in, it's harder for you to pay attention to what you're doing. But when the sets are only 1 or 2, you can pay attention to that, even in a fatigue state. So now we're taking that 2 things that we changed, right? So the feet rooting a little bit, the breathing, and the neck, and we taught it to you, and then we put it here. So now they're just reinforced at 100 reps with that. Then we also put in a very fatigued state. So now in those very, very last sets, in your head, you're thinking, I can do this, but it's going to be way easier if I do this with my head in the right position, and if I'm breathing the way that I'm supposed to breathe. So now we took that skill acquisition to the whole nother level with that. So in a technical sense, you could say, and I'm just pulling shit out of my ass here, let's think about it. If you just work technique with a normal client that just does normal squats, how many top sets are there typically? 2, 3? Yeah. So maybe 6 total work sets, right, in over 50% range in one training session compared to 100. So how many training sessions technically with 50%, if we're just looking at 50% and above, because anything under 50%, it's hard to work technique as well. It's just broomstick, it's too light. Yeah. Right? So we have 6 times, oh my God. So how many sessions is that? It's 10, so that's 10 weeks just to get to 60, right? So if you put the warm-ups in there, we're looking at 20 weeks, right, of doing a normal squat training to be able to get the same technical efficiency that we just got out of that.
In one session.
In one session. Without doing it under great load, strain, stress, and all those other things that we were talking about earlier. So now that changes that biggest question of, is this necessary? For whom?
Right.
Right? Because let's say we want to fast track his, this could be the best thing that he's ever done to fast track his squat technique. While it sucks, if you think it through and see what happened, it could almost seem like it was intentional, but it was. I wouldn't, I would
kind of worked out.
Now, with him, maybe.
Well, I was going to say, you have an Olympic lifting background, so you're used to the same movements, high percentages. Just the amount of time that you do these reps. I can't even imagine how many clean and jerks and snatches.
Yeah, that's why I stopped.
But there is a certain amount of being able to execute at a high level under fatigue.
Yeah, I think it played out perfectly, kind of the way we did it, with covering the technical cues that we did, and then being able to execute it under all the conditions made a big difference, because I'll be straight up honest, I wouldn't have been able to get the reps that we got to without having that technique. Like it just wouldn't have happened. So from a learning perspective, that is just like he had said, we condensed a ton of training sessions into, I mean, I'm going to call it an experience.
Yeah.
But for me now moving forward, I think those conditions are going to ingrain that a lot faster for future training for me, which is, it's cool how it worked out. I don't think it was really that intentional, but it ended up working out perfectly.
Right. Yeah. And to see how you went into each squat, right? Like you almost broke it down into three steps.
Three steps.
You.
Yep.
I saw you just get, like in your head, it was like 1, 2, 3,
Yep.
1, 2, 3, over and over and over and over and over. And I think if, as a more advanced lifter, like you have the capacity, the mental capacity, the cognitive capacity, the physical capacity to get to that state of fatigue and still be able to execute. Right. I could see how this like you couldn't do this for a beginner. Like there's no,
yeah.
It's just muddying the water of what you're trying to teach them. Right.
Yeah. I think, I mean, we're all competitive athletes here and we have that competitive edge. So for me, this is an advance, I would say. I don't even if it was a principle or technique, but it's something that now I have in my toolbox that I can use for the future, and kind of puts you on the fast track, which is kind of it's cool how it played out, you know.
Well, it's such a painful thing that you do that you're not going to forget the lesson you learned from it. I think that's the,
but that's how you learn.
Well, sometimes there's hidden lessons too, because as we were talking in the bathroom, you know.
Find that on your only Tate's account.
Oh yeah, my butt.
We were talking about his butt in the bathroom. You know, I noticed it was a little fuller than normal. So, but anyhow,
rotund.
You know, he was saying that his lower glutes are on fire from doing that.
I can attest.
So with that, it was remember what we were talking about earlier with him as well as with his hamstring training and all that. I'm like, there might be something here. I don't know what it is, but this targeted not all the reps and all. It could be the lower box squat, the stance that he was in was targeting an area that we really need to look at building. So anytime you do anything that's kind of like on the edge or the fringes, you know, and you look back on it, you can find things like what we're talking about technically or things like this here. Yes. So you don't ever want to, and I'm all for doing stupid shit, right? So, but I'm all for if you do the stupid shit, pause and think about it and what could you learn from it? Because you can't always do stuff like that. But a lot of the times, if you look at it really close, there's usually some takeaways that are like, wow, I didn't think about that. Yeah. You know, and that could be that's one of those examples there.
Yeah, if you didn't push it to that extreme, you're not going to be able to work backwards from it and be like, wow, so this is what happened. There's something there. Like my lower ass feels like I've had DOMs for 3 days.
Yes.
20 minutes afterwards. Okay, if that's something I need to target for my bodybuilding, then there's something to this movement, being able to target that. It doesn't mean I'm going to do 43 sets of this shit again.
No, but there's definitely a takeaway. Yeah. That's what I'm saying is you want to look for those things, and because they're always there. You know, it's the cool thing about it. Otherwise, it's just grunting and straining.
Well, there's two things that, I mean, I'm not downplaying the fact of how hard it was, but even the last session we did, the leg session, it was treacherous in every way, but I still felt okay. You know, and like I said, I'm not trying to downplay what we just did. I worked my ass off, but the same thing happened today where, I mean, we put it all on the line, and, you know, shout out to Dave for just having the wisdom to know, I guess, how to do that. 'Cause like, I don't, it's hard for me to experience that anywhere else than just from coming here. But the other thing for me was a technical breakdown with my lower back, which both of you guys had seen, and we wouldn't have been able to see that unless we did what we had done.
Right.
So that was like a big takeaway for me, and you guys both saw that, and something I can work on too. And I wasn't in dangerous position or anything, but it's like I had to get in that amount of volume to see what was going on.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
and it especially for strongman, right? Is like if someone were to say, "Hey, Joey, you need to work on your upper back," you'd be like, yeah, "Okay, go fuck yourself." Like, there's no way. But now you can see how like that can impact your deadlift. How it can impact even you have such a strong overhead press, But imagine if your upper back was stronger for that front rack position.
It's crazy. My mind's going like all over the place.
It's like, oh shit! Like, what could I do?
When you see the video when it comes out, or if they can just show you a couple of your reps, you're gonna be like, holy crap! I need to build my. I need to build this big time.
But kind of like we were saying, it's a fast track kind of thing for me. Obviously, it's going to take time, but it's like, boom! It's glaring now that this is something we can focus on, make me a better athlete.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, what I want you to look when you see it, and it's. When anybody sees it, when they watch that, is watch what your elbows are doing, right? Because they're pivoting, they're moving around every time you sit down, flex, every time you sit down, flex. Well, anytime there's excess movement going on, that's power being lost, right? So so now if we tighten that down, that power is going to go through the body of the bar. So that then goes to what other times are you in that bent over type squat position and power gets lost?
Yeah.
May or may not be the case, but it was definitely there. So when people, knowing YouTube, people are definitely going to comment and say some dumbass thing about it, right? But which is great because they love you, right? Unless you're Sam, everybody loves Sam, so that's a whole different thing.
Give it time.
Yeah. When he squats more, you got 200 pounds more. They're
going to hate the shit out of him.
Yeah. He does. I mean, I put something up on YouTube. It's like Sam wearing gear, even squatting high. Doesn't matter. He can squat 3 inches high. Looks solid, Sam. Good job, Sam. Good luck at the meet, Sam. And it's like, he just ain't strong enough yet. Or he's just got a better personality than everybody else online. To me, it's they don't.
It's not in a number that's intimidating.
Why is that? When that's so true.
I know,
that is so true.
You know what? We're just gonna say it just because most people don't pay attention anyhow, right?
Yeah.
We're gonna do this here shortly while you're still somewhat strong and peaked. We're gonna throw some of the fake fucking plates on there. Right, like to make your 600 look like 850, right?
Experiment.
And we're gonna make it look bigger, right? And then we're gonna post it. And I bet this is gonna be my projection. Sam's high as fuck. Sam started taking shit. There's gonna be no go Sam. It's gonna be 100%.
There were 2 comments on the YouTube video that stuck out to me. They're like, "Oh wow, I thought Sam was on steroids, and I saw that he was too small." And I was like, "Ow!" I was like, "Fucking ow!" It's like, okay, this is good. Actually, I tried to do the most Dave post I could. Did you see it today? I posted up a reel. It was my squat that got called high, and I just wrote thoughts.
Thoughts?
That always works.
And it was like got crazy responses, but about 98% of it was like, "Oh, that squat looked good to me." It's just like, I tried, Dave. I tried. I tried to get myself ripped up by the internet.
You try harder, man.
Oh yeah, no. Hang out with you guys, I'm sure I'll get ripped apart. Just guilty by association. So I think to kind of pivot a little bit, I think what we should do is kind of give the audience a little update on what has transpired since the last time you guys were here. Juji, you did the bodybuilding show.
Yeah.
And that went awesome.
It went great. It went really well. I was really happy about it. Yeah.
With the backflip on stage, that was.
Yeah, that was illegal. That was, dude.
You know what? That was weird for me though, And I get it, but then how can fitness do what they did?
Fuck, I don't know. They're going to come out with like a men's fitness category where it's a bunch of jack dudes doing flip. And I'm going to be 44. I'm gonna be like, sons of bitches.
I did this one time.
I did this when I was 32, or 28. Damn.
Yeah.
Past my prime now here. God. But I read the website really closely, the NPC, rules. I could have sworn that no gymnastic or acrobatic maneuvers was under the prejudging headline, because music rules did not have that listed. So I was like, why the hell would someone do a backflip in prejudging? So you got your front relaxed, your quarter turn to the right. Why would some asshole do a backflip? Yeah. So it made sense to me. It's like, okay,
weird flex, but okay.
Yeah.
Here's the other thing.
Good timing.
It's great to read comments when people really don't know what's going on, but people are like, oh, he would have placed even better if he didn't do a backflip because Well, because it's not judged. The music is not judged. The music routine is just for you and the fans. It's just for fun. They don't make any judging decisions based on that. So I was like, okay, so if I thought I read it under prejudging and it's not under the music header for their website for rules, then there's no reason why I can't do it because it doesn't affect my score. So I'm going to do a backflip, you know, because the fans are pestering me. Like, you have to do a backflip.
No, I mean, it's kind of like your thing.
It makes sense.
You know? It makes sense.
I agree with them. I was like, okay, it does make sense. If anyone's going to do it, it's going to do me.
Yeah.
So I do a backflip, and it did hurt.
I bet
the bottom of my right heel was bruised for about 3 weeks. Yeah, because I didn't have any fat on the bottom of my feet. You guys are worried about like cramping up on stage. Jesus, try a backflip when you look like that. You know, it was fine. You know, you can do better. Come on. But I went backstage, and they got pretty mad at me. But I was like, okay, what do you want me to do then? They're like, well, you landed it, and the fans seem to like it, so we're not going to do anything. I was like, cool, thanks.
Yeah.
I guess I don't get to do a backflip again.
Yeah.
They're like, no. All right, so that's that. That's the backflip. I could do a splits again. Then I was like, wait, maybe I could do an aerial. Maybe I'll find some other
Try to
move.
find
to
the
do.
loophole.
Yeah. But I looked again on the website. I was like, no, it says no aerial acrobatics, gymnastics, nothing of that kind. So it's like, there's nothing I can do other than the splits, I suppose. So, well, yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
So sorry, guys.
Yeah,
Next competition,
yeah.
there's no backflip, no flash kick. I thought maybe I read that it was specifically a backflip, but it's not. It's any aerial acrobatics maneuver. So yeah, why the women's fitness category exists and I can't do this? Who knows? But
what was the moment that made you think, if it was either in the prep or at the show or after the show, that made you want to do another show?
I placed well. I got fifth out of 17 people in a super heavyweight category at an international pro qualifier. It's the Arnold. So I was like,
pretty damn good.
That's not bad for my first bodybuilding
Pretty damn
show.
good.
I'm happy with it. I saw the pictures. I think so the placing was good enough to encourage me. I was like, okay. The other thing was I was happy with the result. I said, I look good. And the thing is, I've never put consolidated time. This is a marathon, not a sprint.
Oh, of course.
That's what these things are. I was like, I just haven't put the time into training this way long enough. There's nothing I could have done better in prep. Not a single thing. I had everything locked in. I was a hermit living in my white gym, eating the same meals. Everything was perfect. It just needs more time. So I was like, hey, this is cool. I haven't really maxed out this capacity. The ceiling is still there. Like acrobatics, dude, I peaked when I was 26. There's no way I could ever be better than what I was back then. I don't care what any commenter thinks. Like, I peaked at 26. I'm 36 now. If I trained and threw all my resources into that, I would never be as good as I was back then at that. So the best I can do with that is use it as a foundation for athleticism to help me with other training goals, as well as it's fun.
Yes.
You know, so I'll keep that in my rotation as necessary, but I'm not ever going to push that issue. The bodybuilding is something that I haven't pushed long enough, so the ceiling is there, and it matches my age. So I'm 36. I can still improve in this, you know, for another 4 years, I think.
Oh, yeah.
So I like that. And I enjoy the organization process of it, the actual process of bodybuilding for me, the very meticulous timing of everything. I get off on that.
Okay.
I love that. So if I enjoy the process and the result was, you know, encouraging, and I know there's time, then that's what made me decide to do another show.
Okay, so it sounds like a lot of this was already kind of on the fence before you actually competed.
Yes.
You were already considering it, then competing, and it just kind of validated that, hey, if I stay with this, I still have an upward path that you can see. Where if you just did crappy, you know, like dead last or whatever it was, you might have still made the same decision, but it would have been a little harder to make.
Perhaps.
Because what I'm trying to say is when you can see that there's room for improvement, definite room for improvement.
Yes.
And there's space there for you to be able to move up.
Right.
You get what I'm saying?
And it's the right time.
And it's right. So
And the right age.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's no room for improvement for me, like with the acrobatic stuff like that. You know, it's just, I could get back. Of course I can improve, but I'm only going to be getting back some of the stuff I lost, you know, for the most part.
Yes.
I might be able to learn some niche lower end skills that I skipped, but even the learning phase of that is much more drawn out than before you're 20. You know what I mean? You learn acrobatic skills so much more rapidly, and this stuff sticks with you so much harder before you're 20. I think that's true for most technical things, but that stuff's on another level of technicality, you know what I mean? But people were asking me before the show, like, are you going to do another one after this? I was like, I cannot answer that question until I do my first one. I have no idea how I'm going to feel, because if I get there and it's just a terrible experience, then I would have based.
Yeah, no, I get that. I get that, because it's, for myself, it's, and I have follow-up questions just in regards to the the details that you're talking about, is for myself, when the shows that I did, there was no reward. Even when because the first couple, I'm like, I'm done with this, man. I don't want to do this. You know, but I placed 3rd, 5th, and they were smaller local type shows. And so the backlash I would get from my training partners, well, you didn't win. Like the first one, you looked like shit too. You were just a fat teenage kid. Well, not fat, but you're just a big teenage kid. Yeah. Happened to place 3rd because you're bigger than everybody else that just were wrestlers. You know, didn't really have that much. So then when I finally did win, it's still, that moment was just it. Yeah. It wasn't the return on the investment I expected with the time and everything that went into it for me. Yeah. To me, standing up with a heavy squat, to me, it's just different. So I'm saying that because I think that's why you can't answer before you actually do it, right? Because some people do it and then you're up there no matter how you place and you're like, this is freaking awesome. Yeah. You know, except we're all different. You know, for me, it's like, no, this sucks. This is terrible. I want to go in the bathroom and this is terrible. You know, put me under a squat bar where the weights distract people from me. Yeah. You know, but so that's that part of it where I had this weird disconnect was I love singles, you know, lifting heavy stuff. Outside of that, I dislike every other aspect of powerlifting there is. It's just the repetitive same shit over and over and over and over. Even with some exercises, it's so freaking repetitive that yes, a reverse hyper is a reverse hyper is a reverse hyper, and you can do it a million different ways. It's still a freaking reverse hyper. You know, a 2 board is a 1 board, is a 3 board, is a 5 board, is a soft board, is a bench press, is a floor press. It's the same damn thing. You know, it's just over and over. But with the bodybuilding, the reach of movement patterns is so much bigger. Yeah. That it's like, this is cool because you can do more. You can superset, you know, tri-set, do challenge sets. Oh,
you can do much creativity, and you still get the result. It's like,
and it's a blast, right? And it's just not a grind. Like the powerlifting is just like a grind, and I love that because the heavier stuff was worth the grind to be able to do that. Where if I could train like the bodybuilder but compete in powerlifting, that would be the best marriage, but I would suck. Yeah. You know, or if I could train like a powerlifter and then just go get on stage, I'd suck because I'd be fat and hairy, you know, and not tan and everything else. So because the discipline's different too. That's what I want to ask you about is the discipline. And you've done powerlifting meets. And you've done powerlifting meets you really focused on. So there's some
I've done a full prep.
You've done full preps for it. So I just want to put that out there because some people have seen you've competed and it's just last minute. You've seriously prepped and done it. It's different than what you just did.
It's way different.
Way different. In different areas. How would you define the differences?
I mean, just straight off the bat, honestly, like powerlifting training for the prep was way harder. Like the workouts very painful, joints hurt, everything's you're scared to go into the workouts because they're so freaking hard,
and they all matter
every rep, every 10 pounds you add week to week as you approach a meet, and you feel like shit after a workout. It ruins you for the rest of the day. You feel like crap. You just feel like crap. In bodybuilding prep, the training is honestly easy. Like it's not as crucial. It just works, you know what I mean? What matters is managing your energy levels and the dieting aspect throughout the rest of the day. Managing the fatigue management is a very big issue. So it's because you're dead tired on your feet, you know, when you're in a meet prep for powerlifting because the workouts are wiping you out. But it's a different level of fatigue, you know. Yes. I mean? It's a different thing. So honestly, the training for the powerlifting team is way harder, but the dieting and the fatigue, the stuff for the bodybuilding is that in the organization, like everything is timed super perfect, and all this stuff has to be at the right. All these, you know, it's just different.
It's hard to explain, isn't it?
I would say that the bodybuilding prep was easier for me, honestly. Honestly, it was easier. The powerlifting prep was harder. for me.
Do you think it's because it locks you into everything with the bodybuilding prep? Because here's your meal times, here's the training time, so everything becomes more regimented, scheduled, and disciplined, which also means that here's this 2-hour gap, so this is when I can do the video editing. Here's this 2-hour gap, this is when I can do bookkeeping. So your whole life becomes calendarized. You know, everything and it has to. That's the crazy thing about this bodybuilding thing, because it's 24/7. It has to. It's like, okay, this is the only time I have to be able to pay bills. So I got to put this in here. I got to do this. So then when that time comes, even if you don't want to, you're like, damn, I need to do this because I got to do this, because then I got to eat, then I got to do this. Yeah. And even sleep, you know, all that becomes this big, it organizes your entire life, right?
Oh yeah, it's all consuming.
Yes,
but I like that.
Yeah, that's where I was going with it. That's where I was.
I want it to just eat me alive.
So there's a lot of certainty involved with that, because you know this follows this, follows this, follows this, and this and this and
this. Yeah, you periodize everything.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Where in the powerlifting, it's full of uncertainty. You know, you don't know how you're going to feel. You're trying your best to be able to get the food and all the other kind of stuff in. Yeah. So it's one, I see one full of certainty, one full of uncertainty, and then you look at different personality types. How does it fit one? How does it fit the other? Yeah. Why is one strain more than somebody else? Like, why does one person have such a hard time with bodybuilding dieting compared to the other one? Right. I don't always think it's the nutrient being hungry thing. Yeah. I think it's getting kind of what we're talking to here is what fills their personality kind of the best. And this would encompass anybody that trains, because they don't have to compete. And then take that and turn it into a lifestyle that they can expand on from there. So maybe they don't like all that scheduling. Yeah. You know, for me, it drove me freaking crazy.
The scheduling did.
Yes, but I knew I had to do it. You have to do it.
Oh, it doesn't work if you don't.
That's the thing.
It's very quick feedback when you screw it up, too.
And I'm lazy.
Like, if you're late for a meal 20 minutes, you know. Yes. When you're that low in calories, you're that much on the edge, 20 minutes past your mealtime, like, your body is like, your blood
glucose. You can't think either.
No, you can't. It's an emergency. Your body goes into flight or fight. Yes. Over 20 minutes. You're not making this shit up. It's not in your head. Walking just a little bit more throughout the day, like an extra 1,000 steps, can throw off your entire recovery and make you that much hungrier. You're like, I don't get to eat again until 5:30. It is 4:30. I just moved some boxes from my basement upstairs for 20 minutes. Now I'm screwed. You know what I mean?
No, I know exactly what you mean, where it's, I remember one time, in the story that I tell that kind of laid this out, is we have a Mac store, which is in Easton, which is on the other side of Columbus. It's not that far away. It's 45 minutes away, whatever it is. Yeah. And I had to get a fucking computer fixed, right? And it's the only way that you could do it. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, man, I got to eat. Yeah. Then if I'm going to leave, then I'm going to have to pack this shit. You know, because what if I'm there and it takes them longer to fix this than what I think it's going to take? Yeah. And this next meal is supposed to be here. I don't like packing my food because it tastes like ass to begin with. Oh yeah. So I went for 2 months with a busted ass computer using my phone and an iPad, because I did not want to have to deal with making food, putting it in the cooler, to be able to go there to possibly be waiting in line for them to fix my shit and then have to say, oh, can somebody hold my space so I can go out and eat my chicken breast and rice? You see it? But that's how, and it sounds stupid, right? Like, anybody listening to this is like, Dave, you guys are stupid. It's not that big of a deal. And it's like, I'm like, no, I'm telling you, when you're in that mindset, it's a big fucking deal.
It doesn't get done.
No.
Basically, just like during that time, things just don't get done.
No, they don't.
You know what I mean? But that's why having, like, you know, this is becoming trite, but it's so true. Like, every sport, an individual sport at the highest levels, is a team sport. You know what I mean? So Sam, my wife, was helping me so much, like, just picking things up, moving them around in space, just literally moving things in space and just taking care of little things like that, because I did not have the bandwidth to do any more than what I was doing. I was redlining it every day, which was where I was supposed to be. Yes. You know what I mean? And I was okay with it, but I wouldn't have been able to do it as well as I did it. My package at the show would not have been as good. My experience of prep would not have been what I would have been okay with if I did not have her help.
Yes.
So actually my question for you then would be, for a powerlifting meet prep, since you've done a million powerlifting meets, how is your support system? How does that work with that? You see what I'm saying?
I didn't need it.
You didn't need it. Okay.
No, because I had the people I trained with.
Okay.
You know, so and I rebelled against support systems anyhow. It's like, fuck it, I do this, you know,
Yeah.
but it wasn't as important. Now, when I was trying to get lean, no, things are, it's not doable.
Yeah.
But, you know, I guess I take that back because Westside was its own support system with how that all worked. But I tried, and one of the things I regret from all this is I tried to separate my personal life from the competitive life as far as I possibly could.
Okay.
It's like, this is what I do. Stay the fuck away from what I do, you know, and just don't worry about it, you know. And it's I don't know if that was right nor wrong. You know, it worked for me at the time, but I regret that,
Okay.
you know, so.
But why do you regret it?
I think that making my wife more involved in the whole thing would have been, I mean, it's already tough on the significant others for either of these sports because it's a lot. You know, it's a whole lot. You know, they didn't sign up for, you know, the 24/7 meal prep. You did, but they're along for it. You know, so you sometimes will all forget how much they go through, what we're going through. Sometimes even more, which seems weird because it's like, how in the hell can you be going through more when I'm the one starving, doing all the training and all that? But sometimes they are. And when you're cutting that off and not sharing into that, then how is that beneficial?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I can't say, I can see how it's detrimental.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But
I see what you're saying. It's like it's better to have them be part of it than
they understand better, right?
Yeah.
Because you're trying to explain a foreign thing, right? Even though Tracy did compete, she didn't know all that. But there also becomes a time where, and it's, you know, after 20 some years competing, it's in any spouse's mind or significant other's mind, they're still going to be thinking, when's this going to like?
When's the last one?
When's this going to be over? You know, you've had like 8 surgeries now. It's you know, it's PRs are like when, and so it's just a weird type of thing.
Yeah.
With that, so had it been bodybuilding, I wouldn't have been. I wouldn't have. I would have had to done things way differently because there's no way I could have done that the way that I did the powerlifting because of the way that I pushed away support systems. You can't do bodybuilding and push away support systems like that. No. You just can't. Maybe there are people that can, but that's not smart.
Right.
It's not smart because your brain stops. I mean, you're a zombie. You know, it gets bad.
You have your windows for when your brain is working as well as it can work when you're on an isocaloric diet or just a surplus or when you're well rested. Your windows shrink to about 1/3 to 1/4 of what they usually are. So having like a couple hours here where you're like, oh yeah, I got that biological prime time, I'm good. Oh, you spend that time on training, which is where all your calories are going, and then you have maybe like 20-minute spikes here and there. You got to know where those are, you know?
Yes.
So then you got to make the most of them, but also
it's supposed to get easier though. You know, that's what I've been told. See, I never did enough back-to-back shows to be able to know, but I have been told each time you go through it, it gets a little bit better. So it's not, say for you, maybe it was the last 6 weeks that become just hell. Yeah. And then it's still hell, but it shortens a little bit. Yeah. You know, so you get a little, or you know what to expect. So you didn't really know what to expect. Nobody knows what to expect.
No. I had no idea what that was. Yeah. So until you actually go through it, it's like, it's about the 2-week mark. That's when things are like, oh crap, this is new. Like, this is a different level of fatigue. This isn't just like, oh, I'm hungry, my stomach hurts. It's like, is all encompassing like level of fatigue. That it's not just like, oh, I'm so tired, it's hard to get out of the chair. It's just something different.
Well, you're going against your own body's natural instincts, right? Like your body doesn't want to get to that state.
You're starving.
Yeah.
It's different. I mean, it's
starvation.
It's hard to explain because I remember I was just sitting in a recliner and I had to take a piss. I had to take a piss bad. And I don't even know what's on TV. I don't even care. I'm just sitting there, and it's like, I'm not doing this. I am not going to do this. I'll get up to take a piss when I have to get up to eat, but I am not getting up. And I just laid there in my own misery for an hour because I did not want to get up and walk and take a piss. It was too much effort, which sounds, you know what I'm talking about.
No, yeah, for me, it was like something like, there's something I have to do that's about 100 feet away on the other side of my property. Now I'm like, I'm looking around the room for other things. Like, I need to take that up there. I need to take that. So you're consolidating. You're maximizing.
Yes.
Yeah. You're gathering everything you can up so you can make one trip, which actually is a really smart thing to do. No matter what. It's just, but these free energy levels where you're just running around and be able to do stuff, and I'm going to get 10,000 steps a day and blah, 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 burn that shit up, walk around, run around the house, get some non-exercise physical activity. NEPA, throw that crap in the garbage can.
NEPA.
That's what it's called, though.
Yeah,
It is.
NEPA,
But it is.
Yeah. I'm going to park at the end of the parking lot so I'll get more steps because I have to. No, dude. No, you're Instacarting. You're not even going to the grocery store anymore. It's done. You get everything delivered you can.
It's funny that you mentioned support structures, and I think in Strongman, like, there is always kind of that support structure, right? Especially in like close-knit gyms like yours and whatnot. And that seems to be part of that style of training. In multiply, I don't think you can't do multiply powerlifting by yourself. You just physically can't. And you had mentioned something about it having, kind of pushing support structures away. And I don't think obviously doing multiply, couldn't have done that shit by myself, but
yeah, how are you supposed to even get that stuff on by yourself? You have to have friends who know what you're doing.
When I tell you I am so close to Adam, my training partner, because he was tucking that friggin' singlet with my bench shirt, and like, dude, your hand is in my crotch right now. And it's just like, are we related now? Like now we're related. Like, this is how it's like, more about me than my doctor does at this point in time. But it's a cool thing to see the different sports. Like, I want to hear what Joey has to say about his strongman training, going into a meet, going into a prep, going into whatever. Like, you're never really by yourself.
Yeah, no, I love the strongman community. Hence why I run 3 or 4 shows a year out of the gym. I like getting into the community as much as possible. I love spreading strongman to just getting people more active with it. But that's why I love strongman so much, is just because the community and how you can be competing with people, but at the same time, everyone is screaming and cheering for you. Like, I've seen guys who are handing them their gear. Like, you don't got wrist wraps, they're just like chucking them wrist wraps, or you don't have a belt, they're throwing people a belt. And it's ultra competitive, but at the same time, I think what makes it so special is that community. And the only thing I haven't competed in is powerlifting. I've been to powerlifting meets, but all the other, I've done bodybuilding at a young age. I've done Olympic weightlifting, and now being in Strongman by far for me has been the best community that I've been a part of thus far. That's just why I love it so much.
Well, we just got to get you in a squat suit.
Yeah, no, I listen, I'm in it for the long haul. I'm sure at some point I'm going to do a powerlifting meet. Like my strength is going to do some other things at some point, but for right now it's just been strongman primarily.
Yeah, and it's cool to see that, but because at the end of the day, like, you're doing this niche thing, and you may be just all in a garage somewhere, or a parking lot competing, right? You've done parking lot meets.
Yeah. You can't. That's why I'm like, we can take this as serious as we want, but you look around, you're like, we're in the middle of a parking lot right now,
right next to a Stop and Shop.
Like,
what are you doing?
There's like
here?
the shady store that you're like, where are we? Like, how did we get here?
It's interesting. I thought about that recently, and we're talking about what you get out of, like, when you got finished a bodybuilding show and you're like, get me out of this, I'm done with this, I don't want to do this. To a certain extent, like, I feel like strongman, outside of like the world's strongest man and those big theatrical events, has the problem of it just not looking like a big event. You see what I'm saying? Like, when I stepped on stage at the Arnold at the Olympia, I was like, look at a cool glowing stage. It looks like this cool thing. Powerlifting meet is all these people packed in a tiny room screaming with this dude's head about to explode.
Yep.
This shit looks cool. The strongman's like, what is he, like Food Lion?
Yeah.
What's going on? I feel like Strongman needs, and I don't know too much about it, but it looks like Brian Shaw is trying to change that with a Shaw Classic and some other things. Just trying to make it look more. Because you guys deserve a better venues. You deserve something that looks a little bit more like it's a thing, just to make it look more exciting. You know?
So that's happening now.
Okay.
You got guys like Shaw. There's a guy, Anthony Furman, who's a 105 guy. He's got a bunch of shows he's putting out. There's the official Strongman Games, which has that look to it. So I think.
But even Rob Kearney now taking over
Strongman Corp.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think what they've realized is there is the world's strongest man that has that spectacle look, and they're trying to bring it down to the lower weight classes to take care of the athletes.
Yeah.
And then that's hence why too, like why I'm trying to promote more shows. We're thinking, okay, what are like one of the events we want to do, we're trying to figure out like how can we make this a cool spectacle, right? Yeah. Like we want people to come out and watch this, and they may not know how heavy. Like this sounds kind of crazy, but I was going to get a bunch of toilets, and we're going to do toilet carries,
sure,
and load them with concrete and weigh them up and make that a cool event, because it's like, man, like I've never seen something like that before. And when you watch World's Strongest Man, they do have those events that they put a ton of money into, right? You got the Wheel of Pain and all that kind of stuff. And I think the athletes deserve that on a lower level, because that's going to get the sport to grow even more. And that's what we're trying to do here. So yeah, I would agree. But I do think there are people now in better positions who are starting to promote that. And you're seeing a lot more recognition for like, the lighter weight classes, 105s, the 90 kg, like and below, which has been cool.
Yeah.
And actually, we just got corrected by Mason. He said Rob isn't taking over Strongman Corp. I guess the deal fell through.
Awkward.
Cool. Awesome. Okay. Thanks for that.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing that I've always thought that strength sports and bodybuilding and all of them need, from the perspective that we're talking about, people always want, how do you grow this, how do you grow that, all this kind of stuff, is I've seen all these over the years, and they've all slowly grown in different ways. Physique sports have blown up because there's more categories. So obviously more categories, more divisions is a way to expand and bring more money, into it. But just bringing the money into it doesn't solve some of the problems that people are talking about. All it does is give more money to certain people that are in each one of these organizations, right? So, and there's no mystery to that. If we're talking bodybuilding, when there's no mystery that there's corruption that might be too strong of a word for what it is, but it's corruption. What it is, yeah. With corruption that's going on in other things, it's not even. But I think what needs to happen, and I've been saying this for years, is you have to have you need some type of board that is of lifters, right? So when I thought of this when you said Rob, right? So he gets in there now. He's like a board of directors, but he's still a competitor. So this is where things get dicey with having a board that's a bodybuilding board or a committee that's going to help with these decisions of powerlifting, whatever it is. You're going to put the competitive athletes who I think need to be on this board, but their input's valuable, but their administration work needs to be minimized to the fullest extent.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because they're competitors. Their number one thing is to compete and get better. Yeah.
It's not marketing. It's not any of that shit.
And you don't want to take that away from them ever, because that's why they're there. They're the sounding board to be able to tell the administrators, this is fucked up. This is fucked up. Right? But what happens is, and the administrators need to be able to hear that, listen to them, respond, and react. What I've seen happen, and it's not just bodybuilding, it's all of them, is the people that they might get in it right after they retire, right? So then they retire, then they get in it, their intentions are good. 3-4 years later, they're like, no, wait a minute. I can make how much on this show?
Yeah.
Money, yep.
And like, no, wait a minute. So-and-so made how much on their show? So-and-so made 50 grand on their show. Why am I not making 20 grand on my show? Why am I not making 30 grand on my show? So then, because they're not that competitor anymore, and they're now a meat director, a strongman director, a bodybuilding director, and now their whole perspective is shifted to, and it's not bad, the business side of that. but they've forgotten because they're no longer on the stage, on the platform, or carrying the, stones.
Carrying the toilets.
Carrying the toilets. That I used to, in other words, you see where I'm going.
That's a great point.
So everybody agrees that, the lifters, they need to have a voice. That's all we ever hear anymore. They need to have a voice. Well, give them a freaking voice, but then give them somebody that's going to listen to what they have to say. And then they need to understand just because they have a voice doesn't mean they're right. Right. Because they're still on they're still on the inside. Their thing is still doing their thing, competing. So yes, they have that. But that's what frustrates me, is because a lot of the times what you find is the same people that had those strong opinions when they were still competing, end up somehow or another 15 years later, 10 years later, being part of the sport on another level. And then they forgot about everything they used to bitch about. Mm-hmm. Oh. And it's like, dude, and you were the person that had these really good ideas then, but now all of a sudden it's not so important anymore. And
so is it forgetting or selling out?
I think it's forgetting. Okay. I'm going to give people more credit than I probably should, but I really do. I think that they get in it and everybody's competitive, right? Obviously they're competitive. They're in a competitive sport. Yeah. So then if they become that meet director, they're going to be competitive as a meet director. How can they not? Yes. They're competitive as the other. Right. And, it's most people don't see the world as being a world of abundance. They see the world as being one pie, and I'm going to get the biggest piece of pie I can get because the pie never gets bigger. Yeah. Well, the pie gets bigger. We know that, right? The pie can get as big as you want the pie to get. But these people don't think that. They're like, I got to be able to get in my people for my show. Fuck you. My show is better than your show. And then they'll do crazy shit like put it 2 weeks in front of yours just to be able to try to destruct yours. Yeah.
Which you do see,
Which you see, right? Because it's that they're not seeing that, hey, if we work together and put this aligned very real cool, then we can do better for everybody. And
so it's kind of pitting the athletes against what? Well, you got to choose. So you're going to do my show or that one, because they're timed in such a way it's like, you really shouldn't do both.
Well, it's more than that, Juji. It gets to the point where they just create new federations.
And that's what you are
see
seeing,
what I'm saying?
actually.
So you see that, you've seen it in everything. It's like, no, screw you. Now I'm going to make my own. And it's like, what is this about? This is about the competitors, right? Right. I mean, everybody's going to lie and tell you that, but it should be about that, right? Yeah. But so I guess what I'm going back to my point is when people ask me how do you make these things better, the answer to me is simple. Each one of these federations, no matter what they are, or committees or whatever they're called, set up a board of directors and make your best athletes part of that board and just sit down and talk to them. Mm-hmm. It's really not that hard. Fly them all out, because they're broke as fuck. They're competitors. Fly them all out, get a conference room somewhere and just sit down and just talk and
ask them what they want.
Listen to what they say. Now, you're not going to be able to do everything, but they might be really surprised when they hear things like, what I would really like is in the warm-up room or the warm-up area of your strongman, can you just have some water? Yeah. No, I'm not fucking
to have
kidding
enough
you.
plates.
Or just things to warm
you
up
have
with.
any equipment.
But,
you know what I mean? You're having to bring your equipment in the back of a pickup truck.
Yeah.
And say, I got my own lug. Screw you guys.
Yeah.
Yes. No, just think about this for a minute, right? Let's say that was the conversation, and then you do 30% of what they said. And then the next time you say, hey, look, guys, let's meet again. You don't think they're going to want to show up? They're like, dude, you listen to me. I understand you got a budget like everybody else, but shit, you had plates, you had water. That creates momentum and traction. And that's not just strongman, that's bodybuilding, that's everything else. But
it was a good experience for the athlete. They're going to show up again.
Of course.
Yes.
Of course. And they're going to tell other people, and that's how it kind of works. But for some reason, the athletes are the ones that always get shit on, which is your biggest commodity. I mean, that's what you're selling, right?
Yeah, and I think that's kind of a good jumping off point. I wanted to kind of jump into what you've been doing, Joey. I know that have your eyes on a pretty big strongman prize here. I want to jump into that here a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all over the place, but I kind of got myself reined back in. So last time we were here, I had a bicep tear, so I got surgery, I think like 2 days after I was here. So I'm about 4.5, 5 months post-op. So that's been ups and downs with that. I think we talked about that a little bit before, where it is challenging by no means mentally to go through that. I was signed up for a pro strongman show, and then trying to go for a world title, which I both had committed to both shows. Then I had to withdraw from those. Then I was dabbling in doing an Ironman to totally change it up, because I was detrained, kind of didn't know what to do. Mentally it was all over the place. And then I sat down with my team and got my priorities straight and realized that I have a really good shot of competing in OSG, which is going to be a big pro strongman show as a 105 guy. My weight's at a good weight for me, and if I'm getting back into training, I have about a year to do that. So that's the big goal on the table right now. And right now it's just doing all the research, figuring out where's my starting point, what's the best position I can put myself in to succeed with that. I was able to watch this last year or this year's OSG, and I'm real excited with the guys that are lined up to hop in there and show them what I got. So that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, it's I know I just saw Bromley in here actually, which is kind of a nice segue there too. But the 105 kilogram class is insane. Mm-hmm. It's absolutely insane.
It's nuts. You guys don't get the recognition.
No,
everyone's like, oh, the big guys, only the big guys. Like, guys, do you know how freaky the sub heavyweights are in strongman?
The weights that's being moved at 231 pounds body weight is it's unbelievable.
It's like, good God, man.
It's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Right, and that's only gone up. I mean, I started strongman, I don't know.
It's always going up.
Like 9 years ago.
Yeah.
And like the weights at 231, if you had a 300-pound log, that was a good log. Mm-hmm. Now it's like 400 pounds. And it's like, what the fuck are we doing?
Yeah,
What is going on here?
Yeah, they want to see some freaks.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I love it. I think it's a great class. Like you said, that's kind of where you get these just hybrid athletes where we're able to move pretty fast. We're really strong for that weight class. And for me, it's I was the heaviest I was ever was about 275. Mm-hmm. For me personally, I just realized that's kind of where I wanted to cap it, in terms of my performance, how I felt, etc. So I made that decision. I pushed and saw like what that felt like for me. Was it worth the squeeze to get there? And then I just realized like a 105 is I want to maximize the 105. Like that's where I want to be. So training with everything I got, giving this a big shot, and like I said, kind of just see where the cards fall there. But I think I have a really good shot to do really well. So that's where I'm putting all my cards in.
And you said it's about a year out, right?
Yeah, it's usually every November is when they have it. So I got about a year of training ahead of me, and I'm hopefully able to kind of speed ramp that process and get back to not being detrained and get myself on a program, build my base back up, and then once the events come out, be able to specialize and get more specific. Yeah,
that'll be great. I mean, you had mentioned that we're going to be touching on that a little bit with some of the content that gets filmed out tomorrow, but I think that's to have that year. I mean, back to Juji here, but you were periodizing everything, right? Like you've written everything out for business, for bodybuilding, for all of that.
Everything. I periodize my gym bag, dude. Yeah.
But I think that goes hand in hand with the time of year, right? Mm-hmm. So end of the year, big goals, right? You have a goal a year out, right? Resolutions start coming out here at like first of the year. Juji, what sort of year or resolutions do you have for yourself going into this next year?
The thing, I was going to actually ask you about this, Dave, about this New Year's resolution, because it's become very commonplace to be like, oh, resolutions, they don't matter, and blah blah blah, and they've kind of accepted like, dude, like you need to start making changes whenever you need to make changes, whenever you can line them up. But to make those changes, you might need to place other things in position in order to actually achieve those changes to manifest them. So it's like, why would you decide on an arbitrary date like, January 1st? Psychologically satisfying, you know what I mean? But in terms of like taking out January, so to speak, and New Year's, but resolutions in general, like what's the difference between, and this was something I wanted to ask you, like the difference between like your relationship to that idea, in your 30s versus, where you're at, in your 50s going on 60?
It's different since I've had a business, right? Because businesses we operate on calendar year.
Yeah.
So it's,
He's so popular.
yeah, I know. I don't know how to not make it. There we go. So that's, there's a lot of layers here where I can do budgetary stuff for a business in Q3 for the whole next year, but I can't really know what that whole next year is going to look like until I finish the year out.
Okay.
Is this year going to be better than last year? I don't know yet. I mean, for us, each year is always that close that it comes down to the last 3 days to know if we're going to beat year prior.
Okay.
The weird part with that is I'm still trying to focus on closing out this year.
Okay.
Right. So it's, while at the same time, I got to figure out where the focus and all the strengths are for the next year at the same time.
Yeah.
I didn't have to do that with training per se. With training, I kind of knew where I wanted this to go, at Nationals, Worlds, however that was going to lay out. Those dates are kind of already set there. So you kind of know, then you just back it from whenever that is. And it's easier to lay it all out because those end objectives are there. Where with business, the end objective is end of year. I mean, sales are obviously a metric. It's a big metric. Without any sales, you can't have a business. Then there's profit and all the other stuff. So to answer what you're saying is with resolutions, where if that's what it's going to take somebody to make a change, then I'm all for it. And most of the people, it's not going to be enough to make a change. It's too little, too late. I can't have a business resolution on January 1st, this year we're going to kick ass come next. If I don't have a basic fundamental plan, right? And if I'm not, and not only that, but you kind of have a template on where you want the next 2 years to be, 3 years to be, or whatever it is. So then it's really just how do you worry about Q1 and then Q2 and kind of compare that way. So you don't have the comparisons with that. So the easy answer is I'm not going to ever discourage somebody away from a resolution.
Yes.
Because sometimes they work, right? So I don't want to be the person to say, oh, those are all bullshit. Don't try to change what you're doing.
When do they work, and for what type of people do they work for? And is there a certain age group that it works better for? Just, in your observations. You just make some guesses, man.
I don't think they really ever do. The only caveat I have with this is January 1 starts a new calendar year.
Yeah.
For business, right? So if your objectives for the business for that following year are X, Y, and Z, well, obviously it's going to start on January 1 because it's the first day of the year. So take that's where it gets foggy for me, right? Because of that. Now you take that away and it's, I want to lose weight, or I want to get stronger, or I want to do this, I want to do that. Most of the time it's short-sighted, right? I think goals are short-sighted.
Yeah.
Right. Because to me, a goal is nothing but a number that you're putting out there that you could either easily overachieve, but you underestimated what your goal was just to make it easier so you can check it off and say that you did it.
Okay.
Or you put such a high goal out there that you're never convinced and believe enough in yourself to actually achieve it.
Okay.
Right. It's okay, I want to turn pro. Okay, good. That's a decent goal. But there's a lot out of your control here.
Yes.
So is that really a good goal? Or is there something that can be more measurable to be able to get to that metric?
Yes.
Right. So I'm more into that. I like objectives better than goals.
Okay.
Here's the objective. It's just a change of a word, right? But in my mind,
objective.
Right? In my mind, that's just kind of how it works.
Okay.
Because let's say your goal is to bench 300 pounds and then you just kill it. Well, maybe you should have had a 315 goal.
Yeah.
But you didn't. But you're going to change it now. But maybe if the goal was more flexible, you would have done 315.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? Or let's say that business-wise, you want to do 10% more than year prior. Well, what if after the first quarter, you've already exceeded year prior by 10%, which would be friggin' awesome for anybody, by the way.
Yeah.
But what if you did that? Does that mean you're just going to shut down the rest of the year?
From what I've read, it's better to set bigger goals in general, because even if you fail higher, you know what I mean, you still
there's
fail higher.
There's still process. I mean, either way, you're just throwing it arbitrary out to be able to say, this is what it is. I'm more into what is the strategy behind this. So here's your resolution, here's your goal. So you want to compete and move yourself up into this. You want to turn pro in this. Okay, that's what that is. We got that. There's to me the most meaningless variable, right? Yeah. There's the variable that just determines where you want to be. Someday I want to live in a bigger house. It's just a variable. It's okay. So now let's backtrack and say, is this achievable?
So is it objective or variable now? So if
well, it's an objective, right? It's a vision is what it is.
Okay.
It's a vision. So it's an aim, right?
It's a vision.
So, yes. Well, what I'm saying is a lot of people, I don't think, even put time into thinking about what they really want, nor think about what goes into what they really want, or if that is actually what they want.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
so now let's say here's that strongman thing. That's what you want to turn pro strongman. Okay. Then I would say, okay, we got a good year. That's a good time. Let's do a real quick SWOT analysis. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What opportunities do you have? And what threats do you see that could get in the way of this happening? So before we talk periodization training and all this, let's talk about these. Like what can happen? Okay. So here's your strengths. Here's this, like these opportunities come up. Are you going to take, what opportunity should you be looking for? Okay, well, what if you happen to get a DM from Brian Shaw for whatever reason to collaborate? You might want to be watching from that, because maybe collaborating with him can help you become a better competitor because he's been around a long time. That's an opportunity. Be on the lookout for the opportunities that can get you where you want to be. What are the threats? What are the injuries that could happen? What are the other things that could happen that could derail you? You know, could there be a pandemic and close everything down for 6 weeks? I mean,
that'd be the worst.
Well, it's crazy though, because you know,
6 months.
It's exactly. It's on my window of my office. It's still there from like 3 years ago, where you'll see the T from a SWOT analysis that I put up there, and one of them was financial collapse. If there's a financial collapse, what are we going to do? If there's another 2008, what are we going to do? At least think about what is that. You don't have to have systems for it, but you have to think about those
contingency plan, basically.
No, but it's all four. It's the strengths. So you need to know what this is, because first we have to decide, are you even capable of doing this? Right? So that's all part of that. Then along with that thought process is, after that is achieved, is that going to provide the answer to the life that you want? Like, are you just doing it because you want to do it to win this pro card, or are you doing it to fulfill some other need, a financial need, a need on how you're going to be accepted by other people? What's the need that this is trying to fill, and will that fill that need? Because it may not. So then you end up achieving what you wanted to achieve, but you actually don't get what you wanted to get out of it, right? So now once you have that done, then it's a matter of, how does this fit into your values, your core values? Because the core values then are going to determine what choices and decisions you're going to make. So there's that SWOT analysis. Then here's your list of core values, which determine decisions. Like every strength sport comes with decisions, right? And certain decisions are going to carry risk, and they're going to carry benefits. Everybody's going to have their line that they're going to draw. You know, that's going to say, here's what we're going to do, here's what we're not going to do. And freaking Joe. And with that, now you're already forecasting hard decisions you may have to make later. Okay. So the hot topic over the past year has been diuretics with bodybuilding, right?
Sure.
Pro nor con, but it's been everybody knows what I'm talking about with that. So if that comes up, but you haven't already thought about that, am I willing to cross this line? Like, what is the line is all I'm asking, is what is the line? Because when you start thinking through those lines, speaking to other people, maybe there's lines that don't align with your own personal core values, that is going to, again, determine if this is going to be the path you want to keep going down or not go down, right? Now, once all that shit's done, now you can start thinking along the lines of, how do I fill in the gaps? How do I fill in the weaknesses? How do I fill in? You get what I'm going? So it's more than just, I want to make X amount of money, or I want to bench this, or I want to do this, or I want to do this. because usually if that's the only layer you're taking this, you're going to always fail.
You're skimming at the top there. You need to go a little bit deeper to figure out, because you don't know. Well, okay, you get this. All right, now what? What are you going to do with it?
And
they
you
get
even
there,
ready?
they get it. Yeah.
You see, even with your bodybuilding thing, right? It was a lot more than you thought it was going to be. But you didn't go in so naive that you didn't know what it could be.
Yeah.
You talk to enough people to say, you know, look, this is going to be harder. And you're like, hell yeah, I want this challenge.
Yeah.
But you still had a pretty good idea of what that challenge was. Right? So going back to what you asked, when people just make a resolution, you see what's being left, you see why so much doesn't come through here. Or if it's their New Year's resolution is they want to start a business. Great, that's a great resolution. Now let's think about all these other things. What business?
Right.
You know, what do you want to do? And then go into there, because while it sounds like a lot, a basic SWOT analysis, anybody can search that. It's Google everywhere. It's simple. It's just thinking. It's a critical thinking.
It's
right?
just thinking about things.
Thinking. Now the values might take a little bit more, what aligns with the core values or not. And that's not saying that every decision that you're going to make moving down this path, if it's business, strongman, whatever it's going to be, that's not saying everything you do is going to align with your core values. That's a false narrative. Everybody knows that. You know, so think of core values as being a linear line, and there's standard deviations associated with this. Your core value right there in the middle, say that's honesty.
Okay,
say that's right there in the middle. That doesn't mean that there won't be times when you're moving along this path that there might be things that you just don't say.
Yeah.
Right? That doesn't mean you're not being dishonest. It doesn't mean you're lying. You just chose not to say certain things, where some people could say, well, that just means you're lying by omission.
Yeah.
Right. All that is taking your value and putting it one standard deviation away from where you would want it to be.
Gotcha.
Or vice versa. And every value plays within these standard deviations. What you don't want to do is, okay, it was okay to admit the truth this time. Well, then the next time you're going to not only admit the truth, but you're going to pad it a little bit. And then the next time you're just gonna, you see what I'm saying? You keep moving further and further and further away. What you want to be able to do and how life works is it's like, oh shit, this is moving away from where I want it. I need to reel it back.
Gotcha.
So, because we're human. We all move around that. But my point is, if you haven't determined what those are.
Your values.
Yeah, right.
So here's a question.
Yes.
Jump in real quick.
Yeah.
How often do values change? Core values.
Core values?
Are they once? I mean, it seems to me like once you figure them out, they might not always be the same.
I don't think. Well, some will. I think there's the core ones. I think with each individual, there's some that are so ingrained in you that they will never change. Okay. Certain ones.
Those seem like the most important to figure out.
They are the most important to figure out, because those are the ones. When I consult with people just on business stuff, those are the ones that if they are consistently violating those, they don't sleep at night.
Okay.
Right? They're stressed out of their mind. You know, and sometimes it may not even be that big of a deal, but to them, it's a big deal because they feel like they're violating their own, value, their own self because of that. Where if they knew ahead of time, this is kind of where my line in the sand is with this, then they know. Now, other ones more than likely are going to change, with age over time, mistakes. You should be learning from your mistakes, so things are going to change. Passions, interest, all these things are going to change. But if we go back to what I was saying before, if that main objective, and when I'm talking about those main objectives, those are big items. They're the big rocks. When the people talk about you fill the jar full of the big rocks first, then you put in the smaller rocks in the sand. Those big rocks, rocks are what you essentially are living for, right? That's your passion, purpose, whatever you want to call them. Those big rocks, those values aren't going to change around those that much. You know what I'm saying? they're big
Right.
rocks. So they're, if those goals, right, whatever we want to call those things, don't fall in and fit with
they're not
those,
connected to them,
then the best you're ever going to do is to build a foundation or a glass full of sand and water. It's just going to be sludge. It's never going to be based upon any core fundamentals.
you're never going to get fulfilled when you get that.
Yes. So if you put that objective out there and you haven't even thought of how that relates to your core values, then it may be something you may not even want to. You're going to start the journey, and then, as we've all heard from people a lot of times, a lot of things that they start, I didn't know it was anything like this. Had I known this, I never would have done this before. All I'm saying is, okay, let's just take a minute. It doesn't take that long to just think things through a little bit more. You know, are you ready for this path? What with this path, what are the strengths, opportunities, threats, you know, tendencies or whatever, weaknesses? What are those? And because those are going to determine, here's where the biggest roadblocks can be. The threats, weaknesses, you know what I'm saying? The opportunities to take advantage of. That gives you just enough of an overview to be able to say, okay, here's where some big things could happen that may have to involve a decision that's going to play into my value structure. Am I okay with these here? Then yes. Then okay, now let's full throttle start thinking about how to plan this. Not only that, but when people will go through that process and think things through that way, the number one person you have to get to buy into your own journey is you. So you need to be able to believe that you're going to be able to go through and actually do it. Otherwise, you're just wasting time.
I think another thing that you that's springing to my mind is kind of like pay attention to this, is when you said value structure. Because it's easy to say, oh, I value family. Oh, I value friendship. Oh, I value honesty. But those are just words. You know what I mean? But now you have to think, what does that word?
What does that look
What
like?
is that word? It might be different images in your head of what is actually that value in your core belief system. So it's kind of like, you got to figure out.
Yeah.
You know,
So now,
maybe you got to make up a word. You know, there has to be some sort of, your values might be something that the language can't even describe.
Okay. So now with that being said, let's go back and look at what those big rocks are that are in this glass, right? Bodybuilding, which takes up 24/7. Strongman, which is a huge commitment that takes up a whole lot of your time. It could be the career, your path, the job that you're working on, which takes up a whole lot of your time. You see why this needs to be thought out. Because these are not arbitrary things like, I want to write a really cool greeting card. You know what I'm saying? These are things that take up big chunks of your life, a lot of discipline, and there's going to be a lot of frustration, and it's not always this glamorous path. And most of the path is hard. You know, so you need to buy into it and be like, okay, yeah, this is part of it. Fuck it, I'm still doing this. You know, because it's not. You know, it's not easy. You know, none of it's easy. That I know this is a very exaggerated off of this resolution thing.
No, I love it because what it does.
People don't think it. People, no one's thought.
It's very
thought as
like,
much as we probably just put out right now.
No, well, obviously he thinks about it all. He's been thinking about it forever. But it's kind of like, okay, now's the time to, hey, let me turn this sucker off. And fucking think for a second here.
Grab a paper. You know, I like Windows and dry erase board. You know, just start writing this stuff out, because you're not going to write anything wrong. You know, if you're concerned, don't let anybody see what you write. Just write it all out. Just starting to formulate this. The other thing people will do is they're going to try to fit too many big rocks in a glass. You can only fit so much stuff. You know, I mean, if you're married and you have kids, well, those are some big rocks that are already in there. So now you're going to start dumping other ones on there. Or the classic is, you know, I want to put on 20 pounds of lean body mass, but I also want to be as strong as a strongman, and I want to be shredded.
And I want to make $1 million too.
I want to make $1 million. Like, okay, how big is this tank that you have?
It's an aquarium.
Well, shit, I'm going to cross my list out there.
You literally are crossing the list out there.
And I think that's a great conversation to have going into this time of year, right? Like that's the most common thing that we see for questions. It's like, how do we do this thing? How do we do this? Or like, how do I hit this goal? Or how do I, you know, Joey is looking at a year out, 365 days out from a goal. You're looking at your whole bodybuilding career as like a multi-year process.
Mm-hmm.
That is always the first step that people don't realize is like that you need to have a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, I have 8 weeks, $1 million, jacked. Like how do I do that?
I think though, you know, I can only speak for myself, but talking to Juji and Dave, I think we think way bigger time lengths than just a year, you know, like,
you have to,
you know, like, yeah, this is a year, but for me, it's how does this year fit into the next 10 years?
Well, why the hell does that happen though? It happens as you get older, or maybe as you get better at something. It gets to the point where it's like, it doesn't work unless you think out further than 8 weeks, than 6 months, than 1 year, than 1.5 years. You have to like,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
And I also think too, it sits in reality. Like, you know, you have to really think about how long are these things gonna take, because it sounds good to say a year, but in reality maybe it's 5, you know, so you have to kind of force yourself to stretch outside of that short term thinking and see how these things fit into that bigger, larger puzzle.
It's not also how long it's going to take, but how much time do I have?
There's there's so many variables. Yeah.
Those change things a lot too with how long is it going to take. It's an interesting one that when I talk to the powerlifters about it, because she's always laying it out, like, what do you total, what do you want to lift? So they give the numbers, and then if they have any experience competing, I'll ask them, how many times have you gone 9 for 9? Like 0, once. Like how many times you've had the perfect meet where you get PRs and everything? Very rarely.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So if our plan with you moving forward, if everything went perfectly, it was going to take 3 meets. You know, so say 20 weeks training cycles, so 60 weeks, so a year and a half. But half of them, those meets probably aren't going to go well. So now we need 120 weeks. Because we have to build in the ones that, why are you going to be any different than anybody else? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Nobody's that special. Like, you're going to do shows and you're going to miss your peak. It's going to happen. Are those factored in? Like, I want to turn pro in 2 years. Well, did you factor in that you're going to miss your peak?
Right.
All right. Because if you do, maybe sometimes it's just recorrection, do another show a couple weeks later, recalibrate, go from there. But it hasn't been thought about.
Right.
Because the lifters certainly don't think about it. So then it ends up taking a lot longer than what it could be. Then with what you said, that can become a scary thing with how much time do you have left compared to how much time do you have moving forward.
Right.
In my own competitive career, as a teenager moving up, it was like, okay, I want to do this. I want to qualify for this. I want to get an elite total. I want to qualify for the nationals. I want to go to the nationals. So it's always kind of looking forward. Here's what I want. Here's the next one. Here's the next one. Here's the next one. And then after a period of time, it ended up being, oh shit, I only have, how long do I have left?
When did you first ask yourself that question with powerlifting?
Before I moved to West Side, before I moved to Columbus. So probably 89, maybe 90. It was after my first, when this pec ruptured.
Well, how old were you then?
I took forever to get through college. So 18, 19, maybe 30.
Okay.
You know, somewhere around there.
Right. Yeah,
somewhere around there. And so I had a lot of wear and tear to begin with, starting at 13. So there's a lot of wear and tear. There's a lot of meets. There's a lot of that. So then there's a pec tear. And then before the pec tear, there were 3 or 4 years of my total going nowhere. Just bouncing between like 1890, 1980, 1840, 19. It was like, come on, man. It's just, then my mind shifted during that time to where all I want to do now is just put my best numbers together. If I can just do
the same
that,
day.
If I can do that, my total is going to be, I'll be good with that. If I can do that and then leave the sport, I'll be good with that. And I also had, professors talking to me about genetic ceilings, like, because I'm trying to learn, I'm studying this shit. I'm like, how can I get better at this? And like, sometimes you need to realize that everybody's going to hit, a certain genetic ceiling. I'm like, well, I got other stuff, man. I got ways to break the ceiling that I've been trying to do, so but it was kind of fucking with my head because they're not wrong. Like, everybody's going to have this certain genetic limit. So that's when I was thinking, I'm done. I'm kind of done.
Yeah.
So then I had this injury. And then when I met with Louie and I was talking to him, he's like, are you going to move to Columbus or not? Because now I'd graduated. There was no real reason why I couldn't. And I'm like, man, I think I'm done. You know, I've been trying to do this shit, you know, push it the last few years. I've gone up weight classes. I've done this other stuff. This is just not going anywhere. Now I got this, you know, they're telling me I'm not going to bench 400 pounds. It's like, how the hell am I going to make up that deficit plus get better? And I'm kind of on my ass end. And, you know, of course, he's like, just come here, you know, just do what we tell you. And Louis being Louis. Yeah. And that's why I had, when I first came to Westside, I didn't believe a lot of what he was saying because I didn't see it. Right. So not see it. I didn't read the resources he had access to because there were no resources to find those hacks. He's talking about dynamic effort method and all this other stuff. There was nothing anywhere I could find that talked about that. Yeah. And I'm in a university library, both Bowling Green and University of Toledo, looking all over the place for this shit. Yeah. I can't find it. It's just some crazy old man making shit up. Like this can't, you know, be anything. Yeah. And so he would keep talking about these Russian manuals. I thought he was making shit up, you know, until he showed them to me. Right. So the first year I kept doing my own stuff and then I didn't do any better. And so it was kind of in this weird spot where through the grapevine, I heard that, you know, I was about ready to get thrown out. You know, I'm like, well, fuck, I didn't come all the way here to get thrown out. But at the same time, I'm also not doing, when he'd be in my face, like, you don't do anything I tell you to do. You're doing this stuff during a different time. Yeah. And it's like, well, fuck you. You tell me what to do. I'll come and you just tell me what to do. Yeah. And my total went up 250 pounds.
What? How fast?
It's 6 months.
Oh, shit.
You know, so, but I had to do a lot of things that, you know, I had to move my stance out in the squat. I'm like, fuck that. I ain't doing that. My legs are big as fuck. They're strong in the way they are. I ain't moving my stance out. I'm weak as hell when I go out that wide. Plus it hurts. I ain't doing that.
Yeah, it does hurt.
You know, so there are, you know, and back then it wasn't, let's just move your stance out. It's like, no, kick the fuckers out there until you sit down and you break your hips off. Yeah. So it was a different mentality. But after that, so when that meet happened, then in my brain, it was like, okay, this is not it. Actually, before I did that, before I came to Westside, I made the decision then that if I'm going to do this, and this is why I disappointed myself by not listening to him. If I'm going to do this, then I need to make sure when I leave this sport, I never ask myself, what if? That's the only speculation that I made is I cannot leave and say, what if I would have tried A, B, C, D, all this. So then I end up moving and then not doing what he's telling me to do, which was the opposite of all that. But by moving there, as soon as that move came in my mind, this was no longer about going here, going here, going here, going here. It was about coming back. It was how much time do I have? It wasn't how far can I go into the future? It was like, what can I do now? Because I don't have that much time left. Yeah. So my mentality went from being already a little fucked up to being really fucked up. Because now it's like, hey, if I need to run my head through the wall, I'm running my head through the wall. Yeah. If I need to do max effort work every single day to be able to get better, and I got to do these stupid ass things with Chuck to get better, no question asked, I'm doing them no matter what. Yeah. Because I may not have another meet after this one coming up. This could be my last one. Yeah. You know, because to me, I already did my last one. So that, I think that happens in bodybuilding, and I think that happens with all pro athletes. I think there's a tipping point where they go from to where they can see the future to where all they do is see the future coming to them. Like this retirement thing's coming to them. And it's a weird fucking place to be in because now your decision process starts to pivot. Like things you might not been good with, you're kind of like, you know what, fuck it. You know, it goes back to the value things like I was talking about before. I was also really fortunate at that time that I had, that's when I came up with another thing where I'm always going to have people around me that are enablers. Yeah. That no matter what I'm going to do, they're like, fuck yeah, go do it. No matter how dumb it is, you know, then I'm going to have realists. Right. So I need both, right? I put that in place shortly after all this because I saw what could happen. Like I will do anything at this point to be able to move forward, but what's going to be my control here? Yeah. Who's going to be my realist? You know, so that was my doctor. So.
It's interesting to say about the future coming to you. That's what it feels like for me, right? It's
yeah.
Like, but people watching this, you know, for example, most of the athletes I work with have that mentality. Like they know.
That's the wrong mentality though, man, because they're younger. Right. So if I'm understanding you correctly, most of the people you work with are working the way that I was just thinking.
Well, professionals.
Yes.
I'm talking about, like, I get to collaborate with some of the best in the world. Most of them know their time is limited, so they're trying to make the most of it while they have it.
Yes. And that's fine. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
You know, it's riskier, but they need to understand the risks.
But I think from a social media spectacle standpoint, from an audience standpoint, a lot of them don't understand. It's like, these people, you've been training since you were 13. Mm-hmm. You felt that when you were 30. Mm-hmm. Well, to them, it's like 30 is young. It's like, yes, but you have that many years of training experience. That's mileage. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's different if you started training when you're 26 and you're 30. It's like, well, you see what I'm saying?
4 years, yeah.
Yeah, but when you have that much mileage in your belt, because I was training since I was like 13 or 14, and I'm 36 now. So, you know, that's still, to them, very young. Like, 36 isn't old.
It's a different time, though, too. And I wonder there's obviously there's pros and cons to social media and all the other kind of stuff, but I wonder if people burn out sooner because if you're into bodybuilding or you're into strongman or you're into powerlifting, you can actually be consumed by it 24/7.
Yeah.
All the time. To where I didn't have any of this stuff when I was younger, so I got a magazine once a month.
Yeah.
And then it was just the training. You know, then they still had the other shit that you had to do. So while I was consumed with it, most definitely, all the time, I don't know.
It wasn't being force fed.
Yes, where now it's just constant. And obviously it's not a healthy thing, but I don't know what the answer to is with that either. Yeah. But I think it shortens careers.
Interesting.
Because there's the other aspect of a lot of these sports, I don't know how else to say it, it's just not fair. Yeah. You know, a lot of these sports, people who don't work as hard will beat you. Yeah. You know, it's a fact of life. It's a fact of how it works. That's frustrating, especially when it's thrown in your face. It's bad enough when you have to see it at a show or a meet or a competition, but it sucks when it's thrown in your face all over the internet, you know? So but I think if the values are set and the objective ties back into those values, then you're not really doing this for other people. You're doing it to satisfy whatever that need is that you have. Right. Going back to what I was first talking about. Yeah. The person that's training with the stronger passion and reason and purpose is the person that's always going to win, no matter how they place, no matter what they lift, or they always win.
I think a good mental device is actually like, okay, now imagine you can't do this anymore. How would you feel then? Yeah. You know what I mean? That would kill me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you're talking about like, oh, they're burning out sooner, but like, okay, now you can't lift weights anymore. Wow.
No, that's a hard one, man.
Whoa.
No, the way the pivot that is, because I think you always can. Yeah. I mean, I'm still doing it, but you gotta, your mentality at some point has to change away from the things that you can't do to the things that you can. Because a lot of times it could be, you know, say with the bodybuilding side, that they just can't do this peaking shit anymore. Yeah. Their body's been through the ringer. That, you know, age obviously plays a role. Yeah. They just can't, but they can still do. You see what I'm saying? So I think they focus, especially the older lifters, the older generation, they focus too much on what they can't do anymore.
Okay. Interesting.
You know, so then that fire was never related so much to me. I think the fire is always related to the training. I really do. Otherwise, I mean, that's what you spend most of the time doing. Yeah. The fire is not related to the competing and all the other kind of crap. It's just not. But that training, when that fire starts to dim, then it's because you're so frustrated because you can't do the lifts that you used to do or whatever it's going to be. To me, it's just change the lifts. Yeah. You know, find different things, you know, and it's still there. Yep. Training's still fucking awesome.
I think that's a fantastic spot to kind of wrap it up. I think we're going for about a little over an hour.
Well, I'm gonna flip it. Hold on, let me flip it back to.
I'll just fuck myself.
Yeah. There you go. Well, no. It's. I mean, no. What I'm gonna say is it's because we got Juji over here is like a master planner. He's like a project management fiend, right? I mean, this is like, what do you think about this resolutions and the goals? How do you go about doing it? Because yours is, I have a feeling, is going to be more cerebral than what I'm talking about.
No, I don't know. Yours is pretty cerebral, Dave.
Yeah. Well, I doubt.
I loved it.
I doubt you're just
I ate
sitting
that
there
shit
like,
up, man.
Yeah. But how do you go about it?
I don't. You did mention something, you know, in your stretch there where you were talking about business goals. You know, business was a good, you know, concrete thing to make an analogy based on, where it's like you don't know until January 1st, right? But up until that point, you're so, like, it could be 2 or 3 days out from January 1st where you're still focused on, are we going to beat last year? You're so, once you reach a certain level of performance in anything, every like 2, 3, 7 days is like you're on that. Now, of course, you're working backwards from something else. You know, you've already set off some milestones in the future to work backwards from to help your actions manifest today. But what I'm getting at is, dude, you're in a tunnel now. You know what I mean? So what does it matter when January 1st hit? Because you're already running on every cylinder you got all the time, you know? And if you're not, it's because you had already planned to back off, to deload, quote unquote, whether you deload anything. So I made a joke about how I periodize my gym bag. Well, you know, you got a training schedule and you got an accumulation, intensification block, and you have deloads, you know, but you have that in life for anything as well.
Yes.
So with all these other strategies and tools you use to kind of plan things, what the fuck does January 1st matter? You know what I mean? It's just like, it's just another day. But I don't think it's good just to completely throw that out the window, because people think about New Year's resolutions because they want to be better. And I don't think that's a bad thing at all. I think that's great. Everyone wants to be better. Everyone should want to be better. It's just cool. You know what I mean? So if you haven't thought about going on a deeper level from that, you see what I'm saying? And that's what you got to. You got to your core values, your value structure, that you get to the point where it's like, you know, what's really going to help you is to sit down and just think.
Yes, for the big things, yes.
Yeah.
The only point I have a real hard time discounting a lot of the resolution type things is there's tons of people that have quit smoking just based upon a New Year's resolution, or quit drinking, or quit drugs, or, you know, a lot of times. And so you don't want to ever discount that, even though the percentage is so small. It's like, if that's what you, if you're going to quit smoking on January and this is what you're going to do, by all means, man, have at it. Do it, you know. But the thing that I like that you just said is, with the sales part of that, is every day makes a difference. It matters. Like every week makes a difference. So the first thing I thought of is, when you said that, was if somebody ran a business and they just said, okay, what we're going to do is we're just going to stop all sales for 2 weeks. We're just going to turn the website off. Yeah. Just turn it off and then open it back up in 2 weeks. That would be fucking insane, right? Because you're going to have no revenue coming in. You're going to lose all traffic. People are going to think your site's down. They're going to think your site's dead. You're going to have to regain the momentum. You're going to have to regain the traffic. There's so much that goes along with that, sure, no, it's only 2 weeks. What's 2 weeks? Right? This is what went through my mind, but yet they're okay with just skipping 2 weeks of training, or just going off the diet for 2 weeks and thinking it's not going to throw them too far off course. Every day. And I don't want to scare people, but every day, as you said there in an indirect way, every day, every few days, every week, it matters. You know, and that's the scary part that I don't think a lot of people want to admit.
So there you go, Sam.
There you go. Now you can close it out.
I'm fucking afraid to say shit now. No, I just wanted to thank you guys for coming out. First and foremost, I would just want to see how you're feeling. Is the DOMS creeping in yet? How's the butt feeling?
No, I was sore before we even did this podcast. I was trying to stay hydrated. That's why I had to get up to pee in the middle of the damn thing. Sorry about that. But
Joey, how you feeling?
A little concerned when I stand up. You know, I've been sitting here for 2 hours and I can feel some tightening up of the glutes and the low back, but I'm alive.
Cool. Do you want to Any last words? Where can people find you?
Last words?
Where can people find you? I know as soon as you step, it
sounds bad.
Actually, what's funny is I don't want to jinx it, but no one's ever torn anything standing up after a podcast before.
Well, I guess I'm gonna remain seated. I'll see you guys tomorrow. I'm sitting right here when you come back.
Joey, where can people find you?
You can check me out. Instagram is actually everything just across the board is SzatStrength, SZAT, and then just the word strength, and you'll find me if you just type that in Google or whatever you're searching.
Beautiful. I would ask the same thing for Juji, except everybody on the planet knows who Juji is.
Just spell my name right.
Actually, no, he does. He's I forgot, what was it, 1.75? What did you say the Instagram was?
1.7.
1.7. 200,000, no, 300,000 more people need to know who he is.
No, I agree.
There we go.
Too?
I'll just go into my
not?
audience.
Why not?
Yeah, get him to 2 mil.
Awesome. Anything last? Dave, you want to wrap it up? Or?
No, you can wrap it up.
Beautiful.
I suck at that.
All right, guys. Thank you very much for checking this podcast out. Make sure you like, subscribe, do all the things. Follow everybody here at the table at all the links that will be provided down below in the show notes. As always, thanks for joining us, and we will see you guys in the next one.